No, wait. How could? Oh wait, we're gonna do a fast forward for this one. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys, bear with me. Ah, this sucks. This really sucks, though. Okay. So this is a hyper skip of chapter 4. I'm finished with this shit.
青崎。はい。
お疲れ様。
まあ、少し。
So I didn't save?
なん
あ、詳しい。
No, no, it's not. Hindi siya mahaba. Apparently, chapter 3 was only 30 minutes. So it depends on the chapter. It's not really fixed for every chapter. So there are chapters that are really, really what you call this, very short.
そうだ。そういえば、一人だけ該当しなかったやつがいる。季節外れの転入生までは、青崎も調べきれなかったみてえじゃねえか。そんなわけで、まあ。
Okay. Okay, bear with me, guys. This is not chapter 4. I mean, this is not where I stopped, but you got a free look of what happened in chapter 4. Well, I could just, explain what happened in chapter 4. So apparently, they are the magicians, or let's say witches. Okay. So apparently, they're doing their job or their magician duties, and someone saw them. Right now, Aoko and Alice are in a panic mode state where they need to kill a witness because it's part of their like 10 commandments that if someone sees them or if there's a witness, make sure they silence the witness. So right now they're apparently looking for the witness during that night where they're trying to do their magician duties, and now it led to this situation where the only clue that they have was the uniform that the witness was wearing is from Aoko's high school or school rather. So right now they're trying to to include or trying to deduce who is the witness. But apparently, even if you didn't tell who's the witness, you know already who is that. But anyway, let's just play the story, and that will be answered in chapter 5 technically. So I don't know why I didn't start with chapter 5 and I instead started with chapter 4. So that was really, really very, very. I am disappointed. Maybe I didn't really save. Well, anyway, I think this is already near chapter 5.
やっぱそうなるわけか。
Buti pa may niniwala pa sa excuse ng fate sa tuwing may I don't know. No one talks about the other people except if they are using them as catalyst. That's the only time where regular people or ordinary people will get involved mostly. So always all the people who are part of the Holy Grail War are the supernatural, but when we're talking about normal regular people that were, let's say, tangled with the Holy Grail War, it's just they are just a pawns, or not really pawns, catalyst. It's always like that. I haven't seen I mean, except for the main characters, of course, I haven't really seen someone like a regular guy did the Oil spill every day is a common excuse. I cannot. That kind of thing in Fuyuki, it's always oil spill. And when the fate, I mean, in the anime, right? When it ended, like they just mentioned that the calamities that were happening in Fuyuki was just one major oil spill. So that's why there were explosions all over the town. For a small town like that to have an oil spill is really, really not believable. It's really out of the world. Like, it's like if you want to make an excuse, you could like try to be more realistic to it. I don't know why they use the word oil spill. Maybe because of the fires and explosions, but it's not really common. Well, to give it to Fuyuki City, it's kind of the big city, like a Tokyo-esque city. Well, maybe or town rather, maybe a small town, but it's packed. It's like it's dense. It's like really Tokyo. Maybe that's the. But anyway, that's what the story says. So we don't have any work. We don't have any. Yeah, terrorist attack will be more believable. It's really it will fit in the Fuyuki City, or maybe calamity, like there's an earthquake, or but anyway, oil spill is not, I mean, it's not one of the, if you will ask me, I don't like oil spill. I mean, if they described it from the start that there is really a big oil rig in Fuyuki City, or let's say Fuyuki City is a city where it's rich in oil, or the main business of Fuyuki City is oil, then probably I will be inclined to accept the excuse of the oil spill. But anyway, that's what Kiniko Nasu wants, so yeah, let him have it.
そうだな。とにかく。
待って。
Okay, we're near the end of chapter 4, apparently.
いや、
長い。
すごいセリフ。
So she asked this question to
何
him,
よそれ。
and both of Aoko and Alice pick up something unusual about his answer, and
青子。
yeah, so they already knew it from there.
言わ
So
なくてもいい。
technically, that's chapter 4.
目撃
So
者
they found their guy. Because it's this question that they asked. So if you're hungry, say you're a group and you're hungry, then you have a gun, who will you shoot? The lion or the kitten? So it's like a question of paradoxes. Like every answer has like a character test. Apparently his answer, I don't know how they pick it up from there, but who knows.
Kare. Kubi? え、そういえば。サンキュー。それと全部。
Okay, this is now chapter 5, finally. So they are ready. They are prepared. And they are now in hunt mode. Okay, so that's chapter. Oh, fuck. So, yep. They are now trying to hunt the witness, which apparently they suspect, which was Sojiro. They saved it here. I don't know why. But anyway. Okay. So, okay, now the confrontation. It's time for what you call this? It's time for them to confront the witness, and let's see how the story will unfold when they corner Sojiro. If they are right about Sojiro, or what is Sojiro all about? Maybe he's really hiding something beneath his persona or whatsoever. But I think chapter 5 will answer this question. So anyway, let's start. Okay. He's quite an unsettling. Uh, not we're not yet sure. We'll see later. It's a multiverse, so probably it might have some connection. Uh, appar- Apparently, how could they pause this? Wait, let me just check the controls. Uh, I could answer your question. The Where's the pause? There's no pause. Well, anyway, uh, like okay. Anyway, I trust you guys with this one. So apparently, connection for Tsukihime is when Tonoshiki was still a child. You got his eyes, right? So he has this the eye of I forgot, his eyes were special. So the glasses that Shiki wearing in order to conceal his eyes his eyes is the one who gave the glasses was Aoko. So when Shiki was still a child or in a hospital, he bumped into Aoko, and Aoko look at his eyes, and she determined from right away off the bat that Shiki has a special eyes. So in order for him to control or to live normally, I think that's the right word, to live normally and forget or try to conceal his eyes, Aoko gave him a magic. I mean, it's a normal glass, but that glasses will be able to control Shiki's eyesight. So without it, Shiki could not see normally. So Aoko gave that eyeglasses to him. So that's the connection of so far. That's a connection of Witch of Holy Night to Fate. And if we're talking about Fate, the pure not purest, but I think the most relevant, or should I say, if in terms of involvement of Witch of Holy Night, well, we could already check about Rhines. Not really Rhines. The Mystic Files. Apparently, Mystic Files waiver, or not really waiver. I mean, yeah, waiver and Rhines are gray. You could see that their enemy there is Toko, which is Aoko's sister. And aside from that one, if you watch the latest movie of Heaven's Feel, the final chapter of Heaven's Feel, um, they got Shiro's soul, right? So Shiro sacrificed himself in order to save everyone. So they are trying to find a way to bring back Shiro. And what they have done is they have found a magical puppet, which was made by Toko, and Toko is Aoko's sister. So apparently Toko is this is spoiler, right? But no problem. I trust you with this one. Toko is considered as the great puppeteer, or the grand puppeteer, something like that. So she's the one really really excel at puppets, and apparently in order to revive Shiro on Fate Heaven's Feel or Sakura route, they infuse Shiro's soul to the puppet, which was made by Aoko, for not Aoko, Toko. So I think that's the right now. I mean, so far as what I know is concerned, these are Mahoyo's link to either Fate or Tsukihime, but I know that there might be other as long as we read. Yeah, the waiver OVA, Toko. Toko is their enemy, right? Uh so I mean, I think she appeared in FGO's in the Mystic Files, or that event. Toko will make an appearance, and I believe Toko has a CE in Fate in FGO. Apparently, I haven't really played that or catch to that event yet. But once it comes again, yeah, you will see her see there, and I think Toku has a few voice lines or dialogues in that event. and the waiver files or the mystic files, whatever it is, Ryan's files. So apparently, so Toko is really involved in FGO more than Aoko, but Aoko, maybe she's more involved in Tsukihime. And if you play Melty Blood, Aoko is there. You could see Aoko. She's part of the character select screen. So Aoko is really part, but Aoko it's a grown up Aoko, which is different from here right now because this is the high school Aoko, but that one is a grown up Aoko, some more matured Aoko, or maybe a more powerful Aoko, and Toko as well at in that regard. So yeah, that's your connection of Mahoyo to the other Fate worlds, and in if you want to include Garden of Sinners or uh, Maho what's the Japanese name? But anyway, I keep forgetting the Japanese name of this anime. So in Garden of Sinners or Ishiki, so Shiki's boss in her assassination duties was a Toko. So Toko is the one giving orders to Shiki, or it's like she's the like his her manager. So he's the one issuing the jobs for Shiki to to exterminate supernatural enemies. So apparently this Mahoyo is really all over or really have its influence in all of the typemoon franchises. So that's how in terms of connection that's how deep this Mahoyo is rooted to Karanokyo. Well, I keep on forgetting the anyway. So Karanokyo. So Shiki's boss is Toko. So Toko is more really involved than Aoko, which is I don't know why, but maybe it has something to do with her uh power, I think. So I mean Aoko's power is different from Toko. That's what we could listen. Okay. Yep. So I'm thinking of other Mahoyo shit. Okay. But yeah. But the one really surprised me was the Heavens Feel route. In the Heavens Feel, it's like when I watched the Heavens Feel, then I saw it somewhere, I don't know, in Reddit or whatsoever, that the puppet that that's the body of Shiro right now on in Heaven's Feel at the ending was made by Toko. So it's not really your ordinary mannequin or puppet. So it's like it can function as a human but not really as a human. So it's like, that a kind of a paradox. But anyway, okay. So we start now. No, wait, there's no pause. There's no pause here. Not unless you want to stop the skip, which is unusual. Okay, anyway. Okay, let's start now. Okay. Let me just drink some. Alright. He debated the pros and cons of a bicycle and how much easier life would be versus the expense. The convenience versus the necessity, but in the end, decided one was not right for him. Like, clutching the bag of apples under his arm, he took out the key to his residence.
あれば便利だけど、なくて。
He tilted his head in confusion. More and more, he found himself preoccupied with such random thoughts. When the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. He placed the paper bag by the sink and watched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exams just around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than the usual. He has made back for the kitchen to pick one of the apples to snack on. He found an envelope stuffed with his mail slot. The envelope had no name, return address, or stamp. Inside was a single piece of paper that had only sender's name and a short message. It read,
話があるので、今夜どこそこのここに来られたし、大事なようなので、来るまでずっと待っている。 言うまでもなく他言無用。
A concise set of orders, neatly written. It was signed Aoko Ozaki. He had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Puzzled, he cocked his head into the side and then headed out the door. Afterward, upon the room's sole tenant leaving the premises, the envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it never existed in the first place. Nice. I like that. No, leave no clues, leave no evidence. By the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom had somewhat stabilized and the city's experienced a period of steady growth. The city's modernization and march on, and the Japan's railways train station, a symbol of the new era, neared completion. In Misaki's neighboring town of Yashirogi, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. Yashirogi bread in Kitsilan. It was Misaki's worst investment. Years later, it will be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, a relic of a bygone age.
この町には夢とか遮奪さが足りない。
10 years ago, Yashirogi's renowned Tokitsu baking company ran factories all across the nation. The proprietor was a middle-aged gentleman, aged 56, by the name Yukihiro Tokitsu, known affectionately by Mon as Topan. He took upon himself begin development state of outskirts of Yashirogi. Oh shit. The awaited opening came in 1981. That was a long one. After 3 years of investment, this local amusement park full of kinds of hopes and dreams began its short-lived tenure. It covered more than 85 square acres. Its magnificent merry-go-round dazzled with all passed through the park's gates. Its roller coaster twisted and turned about the edges of the park like rating Japanese dragon. Its Ferris wheel, packed beyond necessity with gimmicks, was said to have tested the limits of modern engineering.
完璧だ。遊園地に必要なものは全て積み込んだ。
Old Yurihiko looked upon his creation and smiled. Only boosting his confidence was the fact that its grand opening was staged during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But in spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Its mascot, Kitsy, was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. The park was stuffed to the brim with bread stands. Even its impossible to navigate mirror may seem out of date from the start. There are no dreams to be had at Kitsyland, only nightmarish satire. Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kitsyland's shortcomings and customer attendance declined. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old strayed from his mother, had an accident, and nearly died. 1986, 5 years after the park opened, the situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging money. On top of everything, Yorihiko, who had bet everything on the success of mascot Kitsy, retired, and Kitsyland's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the area, ended Misaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best described as a footnote to this debacle, the self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot, Toki Yulik, was said to have snapped his brush in the morning over the closure of the park. Returning to the present, It's just the place where Aoko and oh shit. Okay. Anyway, it was midnight, and the Kitsi land of today was a shadow of its former glory. They could have like a doll abandoned in the corner of a toy box. The lonely park was illuminated only by the light of the town that continued to live around it. Oh shoot. Okay. Uh huh.
なるほど。
Just the backstory of the place they will meet. So Jerry closed the Rashirogi guidebook that had picked up on the way here. What the hell? It's not really important. The story of his history was almost difficult to believe, but he stopped. But he supposed this was the what people referred to as entropy. The park's front gate was unlocked. When he worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain, but the chain was nowhere to be seen at the theft left ajar. Following the map drawn in the letter, Sojiro quickly made his way inside.
急ぎのようなんだろうけど、こんな夜中に何なんだ一体。
Sojiro complained quite out of character for him. It was probably because, in spite of his naivety, even he knew that something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing. Unlawful entry, larceny, burglary. These were certainly not things or perhaps crimes that Sojiro was proud to do, but
すまない。お金は払えないんだ。ただで入って申し訳ない。
money, the real reason his conscience was gnawing at him. He clapped his hands in apology towards the statue of Kitsi, on whose eyes the paint had begun to aptly dissolve. Sojiro passed the mascot bleeding red paint from its eye sockets and began to walk the night park. The building's colors had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature. It was like a fossilized dream. These were the ruins of the paradise, both created and abandoned by man and reality. The economy stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of a wild, exciting area. His breath turning to white wisp before him, Sojiro continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kitseland was unusual for an amusement park in so much as it had been built adjacent to a residential district. The park was surrounded by a forest, but even that, ultimately, was man-made. It was no different from the curtains on a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fence encircling Kitseland and break through the 20 yards of forested trees, he could make it back to the familiar townscape. Though the amusement park tended to arouse dread in the city folk, to Sojiro it was little different from the commotion and terror of downtown. The central plaza was as silent as a grave. According to the map, the meeting spot was west of here. Waiting for Sojiro at his destination was a rugged, imposing, magnificent castle towering before the backdrop of the cloudy night sky. Even for an abandoned park, it was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and the Ferris wheel were loud, intense attractions, this was in comparison quiet and easygoing. It's one of the Kitsyland's three iconic structures, and in a way, the wicked fortress that guided this paradise down the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fell into one of two categories: a labyrinth which disorients the visitors with its sheer size, and a house of mirrors which disorients the visitors with optical illusions. Many of a labyrinth's guests enjoyed the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it will be sort of absorbed by the ever-increasing thrills of new attractions. Such is the way of all trends, the curse of fads. The new must give way to the newer. On the other hand, House of Mirrors was a time-honored, beloved staple. Even within the confines of the classroom dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could be both perplex and delight its visitors. And figuring in the cost of maintenance, a well-designed house of mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth brethren. Even if both types faded into obscurity, they will remain a staple of what constitutes an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Together, they transformed the entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step within could never leave. In a similar sense, Kitty Mystery Tour Castle was the park's very own otherworld. Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistance to get out. Modeled after European castles, it was greater than a football field inland, and the interior was further split into 3 floors. 2 floors above the ground and one below, lined with mirrors from top to bottom, equal parts complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes even from veterans. It seemed that Sojiro, unaware of what a House of Mirrors even was, concerned himself only with its lightning. He checked the letter from Aoko once more. The letter read, "I'll be waiting in the first floor lobby of the House of Mirrors." That meeting place was definitely in here. There was something to see, by at least as he could just make out light faintly through the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed toward the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. The park's clocks no longer made tick or tock, nor talk. And the winter's bite no longer blew in the night. From within the silence, the stillness that would cause any onlooker to hold their breath. Sojiro stopped abruptly at the entrance of the House of Mirrors. Oh, here we go. This is it, guys. He called out, turning back toward the plaza. What? A sound rang out as someone have dove behind a garbage can and fell it to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. Did she caught Aoko? Did she caught doing something? For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to her having been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place. Oh yeah, okay. That explains it. His voice died in the throat, and as he took in the sight of the girl's familiar face and unfamiliar attire. This Aoko, with her long hair flowing to the breeze, was different from the Aoko that Sojiro knew. Uba! The resolute stance and posture she took exuded the strength of her will. She stared directly at him with a sharp-eyed, piercing gaze. Her eyes were glowing in the dim phosphoric light, enough to give Sojiro pause that he might be hallucinating. An icy coldness and a girl's strength. Sojiro lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused him even to feel the malice in the air. It was thought that Yuki On, a spirit of folklore, and climbed out from ghost story and appeared here in reality.
青崎
Instinctively, Sojiro took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant premonition rose to the surface, bringing it with a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt obliged to honor urban etiquette by seeing if she was alright.
その顔を見るに何かあったのかと一応聞いておくんだけど
He's still flustered. Okay. Without acknowledging him, Aoko took a step forward. Her figure, this atmosphere. Sojiro found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted and knotted apprehension melted away and was replaced with a glowing realization. The girl before him was very similar to the one he had seen before. That night in the park, though he had only seen her from behind. With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noted that they might as well have been identical.
何をしていたかって話なら見ての通りよ。ここで獲物が通り過ぎるのを待ってたの。あなたが入ってから私も入って逃げ道をなくすつもりだったから。
Aoko said, perturbed by the swift change in plans.
そうか待ち合わせ場所は合ってたんだな
What the hell, Sojiro? Sojiro was mightily relieved that he had not got the wrong place. It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Aoko ignored this obtuse response and continued.
私はね、しずきくん。嫌いな人とか憎い人とかは人並みにいるんだ。ただちょっと変なのが敵になるやつの条件でね。
Whoa. Cold emotion burned in her eyes. Her feet and already moved one step closer to Sojiro. Sojiro's sense of her body was growing stronger. Wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust, he retreated another step. Continuing as so, they maintained a distance of just 15 feet.
昔から私は嫌いな相手でも敵と思ったことはなかったの。でも逆に好きな相手を敵だと思うこともあった。理由は単純。
She held her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion.
当たり前のことだけど。私は私の感情を乱すやつが敵なのよ。
Her arm moved again. It was instantaneous. Oh shoot. Something shot past Sojiro in the blink of an eye, missing him by just a foot to his left. Oh yeah. Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, had ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening. Oh, by the way,
ちょっと待った。今のは大変見覚えがある。
she ignored his dim-witted reaction.
外したか。
Aoko muttered to herself. The fist-sized hole in the blue light had made in the house of mirrors crackled and smoldered. A shot like that could easily cave in human skull in addition to burning it into a crisp.
こんな射程で外すなんてアリスに見られたら自殺者ね。でもこれで分かったでしょ。二度目だものね。あなたにとっては。
Sojiro backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was a figure of the dependable student council president of at least what he had thought as his president. The memories of the park that night 2 days ago. I'd never experienced anything like this, though most people living in a civilized country had never seen anything like that either. A little weapon that could kill with nothing more than the pull of a finger had a way of suspending the ability of its target to determine between not just good and evil, but dreams and reality, past and future. The more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger that suspension was likely to be. All that one could think was the fact that they were alive at the very moment. It was as though it was a unwritten character on the blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after, there was only what came next. This was a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun.
あ、命乞いはやめてね。意味ないから。でも、恨み事ならご自由に。殺す側の義務として一言一句聞いてあげる。
By saying it was pointless, she made it sound like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Sojiro was in such a state of shock that it didn't even enter his mind to speak up. All he knew, for reasons unknown, was that the girl in front of him wanted him dead.
嘘つきにも程がある。飛び丸のバカ、何がそんな生き物はいないだ。実際いるじゃないか、こんなお化けみたいなのが。
Oh. Sojiro felt that he had said that aloud. The second blast would even come quicker than the last. But he kept it to himself. His mental expletives steered his mind from a paralysis to a mere panic. This response came not from confidence, however. Someday, out of the blue, someone is going to kill me. While it may seem like a baseless belief to hold.
でもそうだった。都会には殺人事件がある。ルールを破れば殺されるのは当たり前だってちゃんと教えてもらってた。
To Sojiro, the situation seemed to be perfectly aligned with his inexperienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as concerned in this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be surprised by. In the society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural, virtually no concern. It was the series of events that led to Aoko's aggression towards him. The only thing that really confused him was Aoko's blue fireball. Sojiro swallowed with an audible gulp. To anyone who may be watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear.
そういうことよ。ようやく理解してくれたわね。多くは語らないけど、あなたにはここで死んでもらう。魔術は隠匿するものなんて言っても、そっちには関係のないことだし、単に運がなかったって思えばいいわ。大事なのは私があなたを殺したってことだけだから。
Done talking, Aoko once again lifted her right arm. There was a hum like a machine. Blue light began to revolve around her arm beneath her sleeve. This was taking longer than the last time, leading Sojiro to believe that it was going to be much stronger. An attack that was scorching the wall behind him. Realization caused his panic to heighten.
いや、なんだ、つまり始末するとかしないとか、あの夜のお化けは青崎だったとか、都会は本当に込み入ってるとか、そういうことじゃなくて。
His thoughts became jumbled. Church? Oh shit. His heart pounded like a hammer. This was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if the girl in front of him was really human. More importantly, if he could accept events unfolding before him. When all was said and done.
待て、人殺しはいけないんだぞ。
Oh yeah. Okay. Even if it was a fact of life in the city, Sojiro was not about to lie down and die. She got pissed more. Sojiro's scream, still entirely oblivious. It's just the thing to invoke Aoko's full wrath. Keep on running. Aoko fired a barrage of blue magical bullets. In an instant, Sojiro dashed into the shadows behind him, into the entrance to the House of the Mirrors. He darted feverishly down the hall. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to the shock of seeing yet another attack, fiercer than the first, than he had never seen in his life, and because he couldn't shake the thought of he had moved. He could afford to stop. Some merciless footsteps had closed behind him.
けど助かった。ここならなんとか。
He threw everything into his legs and sprinted. Straight, narrow passage about 60 feet long connected the entrance to the main body. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he would be able to find many hiding spots as needed.
助かった。
He arrived at a large open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor, one connected the first floor maze, and the other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Sojiro did not particularly care which one to choose, so he, trusting his intuition, he made run for the first floor ways when... Oh, it's a barrier. He smacked his head into a transparent wall.
Kagami?
ええ、面倒だけど、それならフェアでしょ。追いかける方にも逃げる方にも 有利不利がある。
Some more cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There was no need for Sojiro to even turn around. In the very same mirror that crashed, you could see Aoko Ozaki's figure slowly approaching.
それと1階の奥にある出口は封鎖しといたから。結界じゃなくて物理的に。やりすぎて封鎖っていうより瓦礫？土砂崩れ？どっちでもいっか。とにかく下手に出口に近づくと崩落に巻き込まれるから。生き埋めが嫌なら近寄らないことね。
Panic with impending footsteps, Sojiro groped for the wall. He could see the stairs to the second floor. He did not understand what Aoko had meant earlier, but he at least knew that the first floor was not going to save him.
ま、私としてはそっちのが助かるけど。形式上、事故死の方が後始末とか楽だから。
Granny was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm ostentatiously. Even for a moment, you could see some kind of strange, incurious pattern upon her body. The veins beneath her skin. It made it seem something inhuman was circulating her body. Without pity of repulsion, Sojiro stopped for just a moment. Her pursuer evaded his gaze.
ああ、これ？普段は塗り薬で隠しているんだけど、今日は特別。魔術刻印って言ってね、魔術師の証みたいなものよ。ほら、光が回ってるでしょ？これがさっきのスナップ。わかりやすく言うと弾丸の元。今日は調子いいし、私魔力を効率よく使うのだけは自信あるし。うん、あと30回ぐらいかな。さっきみたいな奏者ができるのは。
Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become frightfully friendly. The substance of the conversation could not have been any more unsettling. However,
そもそも何を言っているかよくわからないんだけど。尾崎
cute. Woo!
わからない？段数はあと30発ってこと。そこまで逃げ切ればあなたの勝ちよ。とりあえず今日のところはね。
今日はって明日もあるのかな。
Sojiro knit his brows. Ako's expression increased into a skull as his behavior. Although he was panicking, it seemed that deep down he still not did feel the full weight of the crisis. He knew he still didn't get it.
宣言はしたわ。自由時間はこれでおしまい。まだ罵り足りないだろうけど、ま、その手の時間はキリがないしね。この辺りで諦めて。
He appeared Aoko had prepared this theatrical dialogue ahead of time. Not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give him the time to curse her, his killer. Such forthrightness was her modus operandi. With his victim, however, it was not going as she had hoped.
とにかくそういうことだから。じゃ、狩りの時間と行きましょうか。
Her voice was void of emotion, and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Sojiro finally accepted that he was going to die. Oh, we're not done yet? Silent as the dead, it stepped into the remnants of the dream that had long since no visitors. There was no wind this night, nor a soul to be seen. Still, it heard the echoes from within, clasped its hands together, and grind. Its form, with hands clasped, resembled that of a building tulip. The bearing of this artificial flower reflected into the cloudy mirror of the ticket attendant's office next to the gate. Next to it stood the display board, corroded by years upon years of rust. No, number of visitors today, too. Number. The board had graffiti crudely scrawled on top of one of the words. It was replaced with deaths. The records board had been long fallen into disrepair. After taking full 10 seconds to digest what was looking at, it made its own revision. Number of visitors today, 3. Ooh, 1. After appending this number with an index finger, she smiled like a flower. Then she began to walk toward the source of the sound. Who's that? It had been 10 minutes since the rhapsody had begun to echo from the House of Mirrors. The amusement park's entrance returned to as was before, soulless. The end. Even if Sojiro had been the luckiest man alive, there was no way he should have been able to escape. The question, however, was how much of this was by the design? And how much was sheer coincidence? Even Aoko, who had made all the arrangements, had no answer. Indeed, there were only 3 things she could say. It was taking longer than expected. He was putting up more of a resistance than she had anticipated. And the choosing of the House of Mirrors was a mistake. She had really screwed the pooch on this one. The location itself was an excellent choice, as the House of Mirrors was a perfect as a hunting ground. But seeing her own incompetence reflected in the mirrors was beginning to grate on her. The moment Aoko's right arm began to glow, Sojiro made the beeline for the staircase in front of him. A strobing series of blue flashes lit the room behind him. The hunter calmly followed her prey, and the prey desperately ran for his life up in the stairs.
注文通り。そうでなくっちゃお膳立てした甲斐がない。
In stark contrast to Sojiro's frenzied escape, Aoko walked up briskly up the stairs. She elected not to run after her prey in order to maintain a set of distance. As she lacked confidence in her accuracy, the hardest thing for her to deal with being charged right at her and went down fighting. But the distance 30 or so feet, he posed no threat. By the time her prey drew near, she could fire 10 shots and hit him with at least 4 of them. Their positionings just a moment ago hadn't been ideal. At that distance, in a space that open, he flanked and rushed her. There was a chance, however small, that could turn into a fist fight. Currently, Aoko's best weapon was the bullets from her right arm. She was going to capitalize on that advantage, in her best interest not to close the gap between them. There was a good time to approach. It was only after her prey had become exhausted and lost all the will to continue. Would she pierce his leg, shoot him in the back, or perhaps she would just give up after losing himself in the labyrinth? The hunt will end when her target sustained some sort of injury and became unable to run. On Sajira's end, he could barely bite back and screaming as he bolted through the maze. Even running in a straight line had become difficult, much less searching for an exit. The corridor stretched out far before him. There's of the mirrors blocking the path had made it seem. Panic, he made a turn to the right. Oh yeah. He dove down the hall of the left, narrowly dodging the bullets, targeting his life. Urged by the sound of approaching footsteps, he ran without thinking. The last one was a hair closer would have been meant his life. He caught the other burnt hair from the back of his neck. Was very lucky. Or perhaps very unlucky. If you're actually lucky, he would not be in this situation in the first place. Second floor of the House of Mirrors was structured like a giant spiral. It wound left and starting from the outside wall. Eventually, it will lead to a dead end. The more he tried to escape, the more cornered he'll become, as though he will trap in a twisted guillotine. He stifled the screams, threatened to leak out his complaints. No matter what he did, he was going to be killed. Struggling merely served to prolong the inevitable. Yet he ran. No matter how many mirrored walls he rammed himself into, he ran. He even crouching so hard that his forehead bled and he saw the stars. He ran. Pain shot through him at every turn. The more frantically he ran, the more intensely he smashed into the invisible walls. His body began to understand this rule and begged him not to run anymore. His breath was already ragged after sprinting a couple of 100 feet. No matter how thought about it, it was not normal. This was way too crazy. This was all just a bad joke. If he turned around now, she would apologize to him, taking him too far. His mind had gone blank, and his body continued to slam into the mirrors again and again. His speed slowed. He felt a chill, a touch of death upon his neck. Oh no. It would not be exaggeration to say that Sojiro knew this kind of terrible chill far too well. Ever since he had arrived in the city, he had come face to face with more than one or two near-death experiences. For someone who did not understand city life, his present predicament was not unlike his experience of traffic on the streets or the commuter rush on the station platform. He was far from an innocent babe, unable to comprehend life or fear. Rather, everything he had known became irrelevant when he was flung into a completely different cultural sphere. Even society's promises of safety, something urbanites took for granted, were threats unknown. But he was used to this already. Though, if you were to be honest, he was dissatisfied with some things. Things superfluous to necessity. This world was overflowing with valueless things, and they were all dangerous in some way. Even the everyday necessities sold at the convenience store were, as far as he was concerned, amazing tools. Civilization had raised the standard of living so high that it numbered humanity's sense of danger. City's constant pursuit of wealth and convenience was a poison to a country boy like Sojiro. And he did not have the capacity to accept these conveniences. It was impossible for such a conveniences to easily and suddenly be misused and cause unintended accidents had always make him anxious. Why? He had to wonder why he was even here. Oh. How ironic. It took the real threat of death to finally make him realize, in a divine revelation, what he had failed to understand until now. He had always had to expect the unexpected. Near-death experiences were more common than one might think. To begin with, safety was something like came to a price. Being alive meant that the opposite way was always lurking around the corner. It's just like a street light at night. When the sun rose, its illumination would naturally disappear. Another barrage of strange projectiles whizzed mercilessly by him. He recalled in the back of his mind that the charred remains of someone in the hands of that blue flame 2 nights prior. Somehow the situation reminded him of horse being led by dangling carrot. For now he lifted his head and continued to run through the labyrinth. But for what purpose? He knew that the pain in his chest was very real. He felt disconnected from it. The night sky visible through the skylight was a muddy ultramarine. No longer resembling the one he knew. He managed to calm himself. Sojiro began to laugh in despair, as though something rather precious had been broken. Everything had become meaningless anyway. Even so, his legs somehow made their way forward, the sight of her reflection in the mirror. Like a game of cat and mouse, Sojiro fled through the labyrinth of mirrors. And after 4 minutes, strangely unreal tension ended. The 9 shot of the bull light hit inches away from him. It exploded the moment made the impact, launching Sojiro into the opposite wall. On the fire he had taken thus far, this shot indisruptibly brought him the closest to death. Groaning, he collapsed to the floor. His back was on fire with pain. He was not bleeding, and luckily he could still even scream. Yet his body refused to move. Physically, mentally, he has still something to spare. The pain was not so bad that it was preventing him to stand up. Just there was a skylight above him, and he could glimpse the dark of the night sky beyond. The feeling that overcame him was a raw, selfish bout of grief. Just so cruel. To have to stare for the remainder of whatever short life he had left. Tojiro's rag breath slowed. For all intents and purposes, he had given up. He had given up running away from the sound of pursuing footsteps, whereas even the problem at the root of everything.
まあ青崎に殺されるならいいかな。
Shoji Suzuki felt things that in any other circumstance he would never feel. Incidentally, without exaggeration or embellishment, this was the only way mistake he had ever made in his life. Staring vacantly into the night sky above, Sojiro listened as the footsteps drew nearer.
ギブアップ
The closest her voice could ever been to him. Perhaps feeling that he really had given up, she approached his collapsed form. Dark, mirror-lined corridor, he could not make out of her expression. Without a word, Sojiro raised his eyes to meet his murderer.
返事がないならそれでいいけど調子狂うわ普通どうして殺そうとするのかぐらい聞くものじゃない
Ako spoke from his within the shadows. His eyes widened in bewilderment. Now that she had mentioned it, he realized that would ever been the obvious question to ask. He had more or less picked up on the fact that he was being killed for learning some secret. It was human nature to want more.
そっか。それはそうなるな。
Simple affirmation. His face was a mixture of resignation and a forlorn longing. He thought for a moment before.
でも言う必要はない。聞きたくないんだ。そういうのは。
He responded in a mature, subdued voice. What the? response is clear, rather gallantly so.
そう。じゃ、殺すけど。死ぬの怖くないの？
怖いに決まってる。何より痛そうだ。
His face turned wry as he objected, to which Aoko frowned. Nonchalant as it could be, he was honest about his feelings.
そりゃ怖いでしょ。私だって怖いと思うし。でも悪いわね。我慢して。人でなしと罵ってくれて結構よ。今の私は本当にその通りだから。そういった意味じゃあんたと同じ。普通の道徳がないのよ。だから必要なら人も殺せる。
Soldier's finger twitched in response to her indifferent tone. As if to say, despite having given up on just about everything, Buddy could not let those words slide.
人殺しなんて良くないぞ。
分かってるって言ってるでしょ。
Akore raised her right hand. The light from the crest illuminated her face. It goes without saying that her expression was unchanged. She was not crying nor was smiling. She was a young woman who had exercised her feelings. Deal with it. It was another thing Sojiro could not let slide. Sojiro could read on Aoko's face that she was not herself. She was in pain, and to the degree he had never seen in her.
すまない。ちょっといいかな。
何？ここまで悲壮感を盛り上げておいて、やっぱり逃げるなんてのは却下よ。
He unconsciously smiled, and Aoko's grotesque counter and breathed a sigh of relief. He had misread the pain he saw in her face. This was the same Aoko. Sojiro laughed out in genuine joy, a laugh that most other people would have taken as an insult.
遺言でも聞いてあげようと思った私が甘かった。っていうか、今の小バカにした笑いがあんたの遺言ってことで OK？
いや、そうじゃなくて、あそこにいる人は青崎の友人なのか？
Out of door, Sojiro pointed behind Aoko.
はあ？
Aoko thought he must be in that old overused distraction technique. If this had been Japanese comedy act, this would be the part where she gave him a whack with the paper fan. But after giving a second thought, she realized Sojiro didn't have the capacity for understanding or even new tricks.
あんた何言って。
Right. Perhaps his honest disposition had been to his benefit. Without thinking, Ako gave her curiosity to gaze toward the direction which his finger pointed. And there, something that should not have been there in the maze, something crackling would then smile. It was almost creepy, uncanny figure of a girl.
人形？
An unusual figure with two arms with two legs stood silently in the darkness. Only for a moment, its beauty, which was even apparent from afar, dulled the insanity of the current situation. Extend. Utterly known threat made Aoko freeze on the spot. Avoiding it didn't occur to her. She possesses intelligence and knowledge, but when confronted with unknown, they failed to process what to do, and she shriek escaped Aoko's mouth. The magical attack crossed the 30-foot gap in an instant. The arm of the girl who had appeared at the rear of the corridor was slender and quick, extended to a near impossible length, striking Aoko from behind. Aoko crashed into the wall as she fought back an anguished whimper. The attacker reattached her arm.
Aozaki!
Oh yeah! This is it. Sojiro sprang into his feet. He darted to the side and used all the strength he could muster to get her to her feet. Could not believe how light she was. In Sojiro's mind, Aoko was an extraordinary individual. He expected that if he were ever to touch her, it would be apparent she was far stronger than he. But in reality, she felt about as heavy as I would expect a 100-pound girl to feel. 100 pound? Quite light. Meanwhile, that the thing continued to reel in its arm was over some sort of mechanism. Having extended more than 30 feet from the elbow joint, it clanked and has returned to its previous shape and size.
大丈夫か？
やめてよ。わからないわ。なんでそんな顔できるの？
Aoko tore her hand away from Sojiro. Suddenly, she felt her knees buckle from under her, but Sojiro caught her before he could hit the ground and help her to her feet.
無理するな。で、あいつは知り合いか？
He looked back at an eerie shadow 30 feet away as he finished retracting its arm.
そうね。似たようなやつとは命をせめぎ合った仲よ。
Ako grabbed her lower back as she answered. Searing pain shot through her. It's just a bruise, but can it hurt this much?
僕だけ
Here.
あれだけ絶好の奇襲をしておいてそれともこの距離じゃ当たっても致命傷にならないなんてあるわけないか何か別の意味があると見るべきね
Ako tried to steady her breathing as she assessed the damage done to her back. The pain was quick to fade and her breathing returned to normal. For the time being, her motor functions were no longer hindered. Which meant the real damage was elsewhere.
Oh, Aozaki, あれ。
分かってるわ黙ってて
Blue light glowed across the gloom. The magical energy generated by her breathing was accumulating in her right arm. The magical energy refueled the formula was the igniter. For Aoko, this was the little more than reenactment of 2 evenings ago. Next time the puppet extended its arm, Aoko would fire a magical bullet as fast as she could. The battle approximated 30 feet. As long as Aoko could secure 2-second window, she could recreate the counter-attack and to end their duel. Made its move. With its stealthy tilde, there was no expression to be seen, and in darkness, its apparent age was impossible to make out. To humans, Puppet was not dissimilar to a faceless ghost. Its left arm slowly came up with a grinding sound. Its movements were dull, as the joints were rusty. The right arm, which had been extended earlier, hung at its side. So the puppet's mouth was hidden by its long locks, the sense that it was smiling.
さっきと用途が違う。あれが本命。しずきくん、どいて。
She threw herself into Sojiro and extended her hand. The arm extended at the very moment. The timing was impeccable. In a single second, Aoko magic bullet scored a direct hit on the puppet's arm, reversing its trajectory and sending it crashing into the puppet's body with a violent explosion. Or at least, that is what would happen had the magic formula been invoked. She barely avoided being struck once again. When her mage crab failed her, intuition took over and she just managed to get away.
やられた。最初のはそういうことか。
She clenched her teeth in frustration, her thoughts racing a mile a minute. Fight or flight? You only have one arm left, which take time to retract. This was the best shot Aoko had at defeating it. She could evade the right arm just a fraction. She could get close enough to.
Vibrinston, solitare puteris inferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Teobeam.
Crackle echoed through the corridor. The poetic murmurs contained enough magical energy for a mage to perceive. The verse itself was Latin, but it contained hints of a language of curses. Gander. Ooh, Gander! Originally, there were words meant to curse hated adversary. However,
Mea animae mortalis, otem me futura negata sunt. Manes sunt, animam definire ambiguum est. Teodi et am, conveniamus insomnio ipso.
Puppet was directing the words at itself. Curses beget curses. The victim calls down a curse on the assailant, creating a vicious cycle of negativity. Incantation was meant to do just that. However, this was ultimately a one-puppet show. An unprecedented source of power akin to auto-intoxication. As unbelievable as it seemed, the cycle of curses had been turned into a perpetual motion devices.
何それ、レベル高すぎじゃない。
Abako abandoned the idea of digging her heels in. This was time to flee with all due haste.
何してんの、あんたも来る。
She grabbed Sojiro's hand and ran as fast as she could, deeper into the realm of mirrors. Crackling voice continued its murmuring behind them.
Proximi mich negligentes ferunt, omnes nos peccantes fims, et omnes nos edem fims, omnes nos peccatores sums. Venit domum meum, lut simile somnium, et pulvere simile quotidianum, corporebo, te judico.
Whoa. Ako fought against the pain in her back as she ran through the mirrored corridor. She dragged Sojiro by the hand.
青崎、傷は
別に背骨がしびれてる程度よ。内臓は平気だし、出血もないみたい。
She cursed inwardly how much of a mess she felt though. Unlike Sojiro, Aoko did not run away into transparent pools. Thanks to not the superior side, but rather preparation, she hammered the layout of the building into her memory.
平気ってわかるのか？
そりゃ自分の体だもの。身体管理は基礎中の基礎よ。
Aoko's matter-of-fact answer contrasts with Sojiro's nervous questioning. The corridor grew shorter with each and every left turn. At first, they were able to advance in a straight line of for about 100 feet at a time. But by now, they were forced to turn every corner every 50 feet or so.
あいつはあの夜の。
多分ね、同じタイプだと思う。貴重なオートマタを惜しげもなく使い捨てるなんて、よっぽどお金持ちなんだろうけど。
Sojiro furrowed his brows. He was grateful that she was answering his questions, but baffled by the strange words she was using.
青崎ストップ。もう随分走ったぞ。あいつは曲がり角一つ分向こうだ。少し休もう。
His words suggested that he was still concerned about her injuries. Ako shook her head in irritation.
あの距離を狙ってくる相手に通路一つ分のリードは無意味よ。せめて二つ分に行くまで走るの。
Sojiro nodded. With that matter settled, he asked,
なんで俺を連れて行ってるんだ？
逃げられたくないからじゃない、バカ。
Wow. Answering curtly, Aoko glared at her naive prey. So we headed to the next corner. Aoko rubbed her back as they tried to catch her breath. Though Aoko had insisted that she was fine, it appeared to have been bravado. Even the usually clueless Sojiro felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Aoko with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make sense of everything. First, Aoko had nearly killed him. Though he was saved at the last possible second by the strange, stretchy woman, Aoko had burned ashes 2 nights prior. He could barely make it out tonight, but he considered it a her because he looked like a female. The woman's attack wounded Aoko's back and forced to flee. In other words,
青崎は
yeah,
まだ諦めてないんだな。
当たり前よ。あんなやつ仮に2体と半分始末してもあんた用の余力は残せるわ。
her tone was sharp, but even Sojiro could see that she was struggling to stay confident. Times her body was too much to afford her any optimism. Still, furry in her eyes, refused to accept her circumstances.
中がところどころショートしてる。あの右腕は回路を混戦させるジャミングってわけね。
So the proper response would have been for her to tremble in fear. She did nothing but shake her fist in anger. The disruption formula was only supposed to work on absolute beginners. It had been her roommate. The arm would have been repelled the instant and hit her with attacker circuits burned out, rather than her own. Attempting to establish a link to the magical circuits of another mage was like presenting your heart to a silver platter. It will be no use in a battle against a superior mage. And yet, her adversary had been designed to do just that. Coupled with the attack on areas of Misaki under Aoko's jurisdiction these last few weeks, it was a clear statement from the enemy, who has been 2 days ago had revealed itself as a fellow mage. In other words, the puppet saw Aoko as has no threat at all.
敵ながら正確な判断だこと。
While she was still angry, the whirlwind of emotions within her started to fade. Her face was the one hunter far beyond her years.
なんか俺の時より真剣だな。
まあね、あんたの時は遊びが入ってたし。
うん。
Roger was not sure whether to be happy or sad at that.
わからないことだらけで何を聞いていいかわからないんだけど、一つだけいいか。
Aoko didn't respond. Her eyes were focused on the darkness before them. Silence was heavy and the darkness was like a noose closing in on them. But Sojiro continued in spite of her indifference.
青崎はあいつも殺すのか。
Silence fell over them. It was after gloom pulling them in. No response. Their breathing was the only sound echoing in their dim corridor. There stood Sojiro, forcing her to confront her sins, and the magician girl who contributed to ignore him. They spent a few seconds seemingly frozen in time.
そう。それがあなたのキーワードみたいね。
Ako whispered in a lifeless tone. Her sigh was tinged with both resignation and contempt.
何？
独り言よ、忘れて。それと言っとくけど、あいつは人間じゃないわ。信じられないだろうけど、自分の意志で動く人形なの。この前のも今のやつもね。
Sojiro nodded as he processed the information. Not only did he doubt her story, but he seemed to have accepted it at face value.
なんか落ち着いてるわね、あなた。
まさかもう何が何だかわからないからあまり考えないことにしてるだけだ。ただ人形に関しては別にどうということはない。
もしかして他でも自動人形を見たことあるとか？
都会の人形ってああいうものじゃないのか？
What? Oh. She barely stopped herself from falling to her knees. This dumb moment again. Of course, how could she have forgotten? She was dealing with a bona fide natural born moron. As a student who transferred from the isolation of mountains like an endangered species, that her lack of common sense rendered anything miraculous and mundane. If automobiles were moving hunks of metal, then moving puppets were nothing to write home about. Wait, that meant to him, the indecent form of the other night had been extraordinary at all. He might have been assumed that it was an everyday occurrence in the city.
参った。いっぺん頭の中覗いてみたいっていうか、ほんとここまで来ると感心するわ。調子が狂うのも当然だった。普通は私に襲われた時点でもっと違う反応をするはずなのに。化け物とかお化けとかさ。でもあなたにとってはそういうこともあるで済まされてたわけなんだ。なんかバカみたいね、私。
Her strained face returned to normal for a moment. It hit her there had been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt. But the damage had been already done. There were no do-overs in life. Nor should there be. Her own mistaken assumptions had sent that situation spiraling out of control. But now that Sojiro was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if there had no another better option, the ships had sailed. Human relationships were ultimately driven by mutual misunderstandings. Like tapestries woven from mismatched intentions. Break time was over. There stood Aoko Ozaki and Sojiro Shizuki. The first idle conversation they had since ever first meeting had come to an end. Not that they have a choice in the matter. It was a jarring murmuring from around the corner that cut it short.
Nemo mefnus meminit, vedroit extinct cest. Initio eraberamos dom revimus dolores sunt. Nemo adiuvat.
The enemy was just around the corner, visible in the mirrors parallel to it.
悠長に話してる場合じゃないわね。とにかく今は距離を。
Oh my goodness. It caught Saoko's elegant blues. Its lights were a malicious red.
ガンダウチ。
Gander? Oh, yes. Okay, FGO fans unite. There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her. But in an instant she saw enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more.
さっきから邪魔なのよ。
She channeled all of her pent-up anger shunted into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was no magical weaving, but rather a barrier of raw energy. It was equivalent to setting blaze to 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wildfire. I hope it would stop an arrow in flight. The puppet had attacked within its arm. It could have pierced such wall easily because it had loose curses with no definite form. Wall of energy repelled the attack. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Aoko had to protect herself in that very moment. Fortunately, its protection was reserved to Aoko alone. Sojiro held his hand to his mouth. While the curse had been weakened to a point where Aoko could no longer feel it, it had plenty to effect on Sojiro, who was not a mage. As it understood this fact, the puppet turned its gaze from Aoko to the anticipated human behind her.
こいつは関係ないでしょ。
Anyway, she swung her arm forward once again. The blue light formed a wall to block Gander for a scant few seconds. It was enough opening to exploit. Just as Aoko was forming the wall, the puppet pointed its right arm at her face and...
関係あるみたいだから逃げるぞ。
Before the rocket of death could be fired, Sojiro scooped her up into his arms. What? He mastered his trying to do as a mystery, but he turned his back and the puppet took off running. He was a nimble sprinter, resembling a deeper leaping across obstacles. Sojiro rounded 2 more corners. Ignore whatever complaints Aoko was making. And even eventually stopped in the middle of the second floor. He set her down.
よし、ここまで来れば少しは休めるな。
Sojiro's shoulders say a heave as he caught his breath. As light as she was, running while carrying someone else would make anyone winded. She looked up and at him comprehension.
こんな体力あったのに、なんで？
Made no sense to her. He had stamina to pick up her up and run. Surely he could have stood up and escaped when he had downed earlier.
ああ、あの時は諦めてたから。
His words were unfiltered as ever. Though in this moment, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his usual absent-mindedness.
諦めてたってどうして？
さあ、忘れた、そんなことは。
Though he might have turned away because he regretted saying it aloud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Aoko to see him like that.
それより青崎、唐突に気分が悪いんだが、あの赤い光も、その。
ええ、魔術の類よ。 岩洞打ちって言ってね、北欧の呪詛の一つ。魔術回路のある私には効かないけど、抵抗のないあなたには効果てきめんみたいね。
なんだ、青崎には効かないのか。じゃあ危ないのはあの腕だけだな。
There was no use in yelling at a time like this. Above all, she felt that it could have been petty in the extreme to voice her annoyance right now.
そうね。注意するのは伸ばしてくる腕だけ。大した相手じゃないわ、やっぱり。
This time it was not false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Aoko Azaki. But her shameful negligence had led to the disruption to her magic circuits, making her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Aoko had no way of attacking. The only option left to her was to wait to expend all its magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanism made that a non-starter. The game of tag will not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she had cornered Sojiro in earlier. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she got into such a mess with her magical energy at more than half of its capacity. This has to be karma for having enjoyed toying with Sojiro earlier.
呆れた。いるところにはいるものね、神様って。
She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the fuel for the fire but not the igniter. And that killing machine would chase her until the end of time if needed be. What she should do next was blindingly clear. She had to get back to normal.
青崎、
ごめん、考え事してた。確か。よし、合ってる。しずきくん、そこに横道あるのわかる？
あ、
Ako pointed but he could see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns and Ako was pointing to the right.
2階は中心まで行くと1階に降りる階段があるんだけど、それは私が壊したから使えないの。けどここの作りも意地が悪くてね。よく見れば右に曲がる通路もあるのよ。上級者だけにわかる抜け道ってやつ。あとは注意して探せば1階の階段までショートカットできる。悪いけど一人で行って。
Ako turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. Walking in the opposite direction of the escape route and down the long corridor toward the puppet in pursuit.
あいつは無差別だからここで壊さないといけない。魔術師は魔術師同士で争うのはいいんだけど、みだりに一般人に手を出しちゃいけないって決まりがあるの。あいつの目的は私のわけだし、結果がどうあれすっきりするでしょ。
If Ako won, the puppet will be destroyed. If Ako lost, its objective will have been complete and it would shut down. Either way, them going separate ways would mean Sojiro survived. This is what Aoko meant. Though she explained it as if events were happening to two totally different people.
運が良ければ入り口までたどり着けるわ。 それじゃあまた明日ね。
Even Sojiro could tell she was just trying to act tough. But she had already disappeared around the corner by the time he thought to stop her.
さて
Mentally, Aoko bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity and in of itself. The puppet was also equipped with battle with extending arms and gander projecting crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that, if put on the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although that was only when factoring the value as an antique. But for the purpose of combat, it would have been made more sense to mobilize significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as tool for murder marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she had faced up until now.
ベボインソンそれとあ
Sound of crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approach. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Alco lay in wait around the corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Sojiro the time to escape, far from it. Alco had concluded that she would make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape and by someone by miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors, that was as far as she would go. Outside with no cover, Aoko will quickly be overtaken and skewered from behind. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemy back. Her situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppets. Though this narrow hall gave Aoko no place to run, it prevented the puppet from reaching at full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Automata of this era had a tendency to struggle with immediate changes in speed.
セット
She flowed energy into her shortened circuits. Her blood flow and magical energy supply were unstable. It will be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much as energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon like a hammer or bat, assuming she could manage to get close to combat range. This was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. Question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. Simplest way would be to use mirror reflections and hide, and then rush the puppet from its blind spot, except for one major problem. He didn't have sense of sight in the first place. The puppet's view of world around it might not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. Theory, it was same as bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission of return high-frequency sound waves. Those chants serve as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than the transparent panes. making them even thought of an ambush laughable.
近づけば近づくほどよりリアルに察知される。本当は遠距離からの狙撃が最適なんだけど、ガンドを撃ってくるならフィンの一撃ぐらい隠してるわよね。
Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, highly versatile. It was the most effective at impairing a target's health and by pointing a finger. Single action magecraft which is limited to only causing illness, but there's also secret technique behind the greatest mastery of the Gander shot. The Fin shot. It could do no more than cause simple illness. It was a deadly curse that could stop the heart. Oh, she got hit by the Fin shot. The wound on her back set her nerves on fire. And an armed girl with a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one to destined for death. She considered her slim chance of survival when a vision sent chills down her spine. Quietly using everything she could to clamp down on her feeling, Aoko faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck behind her specter stared a laugh. This alone made Aoko want to bolt. On top of it all, when Aoko tried to mentally stimulate the coming fight, she estimated the 2 to 10 chances of dying in the first wave attack. 20% at times her predictions were harsher than reality. If Aoko fought the puppet 10 times, she'd die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. She minded herself collapsing, crumpling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from her bodily orifice. In 1 in 5, 1 in 5. And 1 in the chances of death aren't bad enough, but 1 in 5, it drove her crazy. Ako forced down her heart as it tried to escape it from her mouth. Taking in a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to the white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago, at the Kuronji estate, the Hound of White Roses, the Wonder Snatch that appeared from within the thick fog, killed Aoko 100 times out of them.
Mea animam brutalis, otem eftura negata sunt. Manes sum, animam definira ambiguum est.
Dark Curse shattered Aoko's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. The puppet rounded the corner. Either side stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. Though it gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired the Gander barrage. Just as Aoko planned, the curses fizzled, so they hit a miss like a barrier energy. The protection only lasts for a few seconds, giving her just enough time to. A searchable spear sprang toward Aoko's face.
Bingo!
The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing the puppet attack patterns gave her were riddle to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. It was one of being a puppeteer while pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls had their limitations. Aoko had bet everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet will use a given attack for any given range, and she could adjust to her tactics to that.
いける、このまま。
Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, he charged the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tip in her favor. If her predictions were correct, there were two ways she would die. Once from a faint shot fired at that range. The other. The other was the puppet's attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer. Otherwise known as mass displacement. Immediately after Aoko dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen. Head-on collision from his shoulder felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have an ability to jet around like that. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Aoko could have just made out what had happened.
今の推進力じゃなくて牽引力。
Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to the body, and it was lodged in the wall, reeled itself from the other direction.
そんなのありか。
Stalling her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact and she had sustained no life-threatening damage, just having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to keep her calm. Another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. The 2 seconds was too long. She told herself to calm down. She was already calm. She had only briefly lost her bearings. She was fine. She could recover her breath. Vision that her body would move.
Intellectus non necessaris est, quisque escat. Nostra sinte abulat fit. Ratio fix tantum est. Dolores nitium creburum fit.
Above her, Aoko could hear the rap noise of her powerful force.
足動け。でもどっちに行けば。
She couldn't once more feel the touch of death.
E salvati, e salvati, e salvati.
The puppet was so close that Aoko could reach out and touch it. That also meant that she could reach out and kill Aoko.
こいつの右腕の死角に入れる。
The intuition allowed Aoko rolled over the puppet's right flank. Her arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, could not attack. She had managed the right decision and her dizziness faded.
Intellectus non necessaris est, quisque escat. Nostra sinte abulat fit. Ratio fix tantum est. Dolores nitium creburum fit.
Ako pulled herself back up. It was her turn. That's only an instant. Within its labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself.
E salvati.
Blinding brilliant light flash. Lacerations appeared across the wall. The last moment, Ako managed to take in the magical energy running through veins. The primitive form mage crap resistance. Just barely saved her life from what has been Puppet's ace in the hole. The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Aoko. The powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Aoko's heart, but destroying her entire being. Aoko did not even have the time to be shocked. This was her chance for the counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. Ako prepared to give its defenseless body a strong kick, but her knees buckled. She collapsed into a heap on the floor.
Vevo in somno, solitare putris cuniferis. Ictius meus obitius dies, et meus natibus dies. Theobeam.
Sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Aoko. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower.
しま、こいつ呪いをばらまいてるんだった。
She noticed too late that the puppet's curses circled the hole. The curses chant the puppet used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling to those who near with illness. She bore the full brunt of the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Aoko had magic circuits, she was succumbing just as Sojiro had. Languidly, she forced her self-deteriorating body to jump back.
負けるか。
With all of the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Ako's blood pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-induced anemia, but from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Aoko was the automata she shared the face. Its left arm held like an arrow. Deadly weapon shot forward and honed in on her heart. Then a moment before it made contact.
危ない。
Uh-huh. The moment she heard the fearless voice, completely out of place in the storm of violence, Aoko's body was pulled purposely to one side. Once again, extending her arm cut through the empty air. Yo, our boy! While the puppet quickly reacted its left arm, Sojiro took the brief opportunity to take Aoko by the hand and flee at full speed. Yes, our boy! Finally doing something. But we're not done yet. She carried Aoko again. Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as I could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet.
その考えてみると、
The Though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. He did not keep Sojiro from saying his piece.
明日はどうも忙しいみたいなんだ。
What the hell? Nice. In other words, let's finish this today. Rather awkward proposal. No, no. She's mad again. Ako remain silent. He was also rather angry. And not that she could not figure what made him tick. Nor because he returned after escaping. Not even because he was spouting typically airheaded lines. It was she supposed that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank, Aoko found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response.
あなた正気？
In a heated moment, she blurted before she could stop herself.
それとも自殺願望でもあったわけ？私もあいつもあんたなんか殺す対象に過ぎないのよ。少なくとも恩を売る相手じゃない。言っとくけど、私助けられたぐらいで曲がる信念は持ち合わせていないから。
Ooh! Tajiro nodded, clearly unperturbed.
青崎がそんな可愛らしいもんじゃないのはこの夜だけで骨身に染みてるよ。
Oh shit. Not again. She found herself slightly offended.
けど君は勘違いをしてるから少し正そう。あいつの狙いは青崎だけじゃない。君だけじゃなく俺も殺す気だと思う。
Just having none of it. He has shot daggers in his way.
話は最後まで聞く。どうしてかっていうと、1階の入り口あるだろ？あの細長い通路。なんでかあそこから先に進めないんだ。逃げたくても逃げ出せなくて。仕方なく戻ってきた。
Oh, he turned right back. Ako's eyes widened ever so slightly in amazement. Not out of shock, but rather admiration that her enemy would go to such lengths.
それに、さっきので完全に敵扱いされた。あの人形、こっちをじろっと睨んできたし。いや、一瞬でよく見えなかったけど、生きた心地しなかったな。青崎も気をつけた方がいい。多分よっぽど怖い顔をしているに違いないぞ。
What the hell?
それはご親切にどうも。
うん。なんでこれはもう他人事じゃないんだ。青崎と人形、結論としてどっちが勝っても俺は殺されてしまうんじゃないか？
そうね。そこまでやってるなら目撃者は消すでしょうね。私みたいに。
だろ？でも俺はあいつには殺されたくない。
え？
His words were decisive. As Aoko looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized Soldier was looking even worse than before. Oh no.
ちょっと待って。大丈夫なの？あなた。
They could. Oh my goodness.
もう 醤油を一升瓶飲むよりはマシではないかと。
He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead could clearly drench in sweat.
そうか、さっき人形に近づいたから。
How could he possibly be able to withstand the curse, even make Aoko nauseous? Oh. She bit her lip and annoyed herself, not noticing this earlier. Sojiro was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight.
下で隠れていようとか思わなかったの？その方がどう考えても安全でしょ？
She really could not understand him at all.
それは青崎が言うセリフじゃないな。
Oh.
でもまあ、長話をしている時間もない。そろそろ追いついてくる頃だ。
He turned to look down on the corridor. The crackling sounds of a music box could be heard creeping forth from the darkness.
さっき1階にいて考えたんだ。君がやられても俺は殺される。なら、まず奴をどうにかするべきだ。
あなた、何が言いたいの？
She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She needed to put him to the test. If he wavered an even little, she would have been killed him where he stood.
提案。あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、俺のことは見逃してくれ。
Oh! Right! What
助け
a...
られたぐらいじゃ信念は曲げないって言ったでしょ？それに、あなたに何ができるっていうの？
Here we go. This is it. It's the big
それ
revelation.
は青崎が考えてくれ。得意だろ、そういうの。
Commander while the overall picture was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Sojiro was proud to share that he knew this. But what will he spoke the truth? Aoko was only the one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. Why he pointed out the following our orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. May have seemed though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in fact, in accepting that he was helpless, was in fact giving Aoko his complete trust.
じゃあ、私の指示に 100% 従うってこと？
ああ。それに、これは恩とか義理の話じゃない。一人だと分が悪いから二人でかかるだけだ。善意でも好意でもない。取引って言わないか、こういうの。
His eyes sparkled as if at bartering in the truest form. Cute. Your child must have been learned from Tobimaru, Aoko thought. Though she refused to let him see it, underneath she cracked a smile. Sure, he had gotten the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world.
労働と報酬ってわけね。それなら理にかなってる。うん。言いたくないけど。
She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked smile, as if her fears were suddenly washed away.
それ、結構私の好みよ。
Ako repaid Sojiro's trust in equal measure.
結構きついかもね。あなたの役目。
Ako warned Sojiro, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Sojiro remained near the center of the spiral maze on the second floor.
実を言うと、もう一つ用意しておいた仕掛けがあるの。自分でもやりすぎだって呆れたもんだけど、あなたがここに来るのが遅かったから、ちょっと興に乗っちゃって。
ん？仕掛けって俺用の？
Sojiro tilted his head like a squirrel as Aoko freely discussed the final ace up her sleeve.
地下の柱に着火型のちょっとした魔術式を刻んでおいたの。中心の柱に点火することで連鎖的に他の柱に仕掛けた魔術も起動する。ジャミングを食らう前に作ったものだから、直接魔力を叩き込めば一気にこういくわ。
うん。
Sojiro was a little unsettled by how unclear the last bit was.
青崎、こうじゃわからない。できるだけ明確にどこまで爆破する気だったのか白状してくれ。あと、もしかして俺早まったか？
He didn't understood again.
いや、その単なる保険っていうか、追いかけっこの途中であんたを見失ったら、いっそ建物ごと爆破しちゃおうかなって。
It was her policy to be thorough to the end after all. She laughed in embarrassment, saying out loud.
いくらなんでも徹底しすぎてる。
Faced with Aoko's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart.
何よ、いいじゃない。そのおかげでなんとかなりそうなんだから。
He shot back. Aoko dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have sent Sojiro packing if he heard them. The strategy was simple. Aoko would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet while making her way down the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it will take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors and another minute for the building to collapse. She will be cutting a little close, but because she had committed the maze memory, she was sure she could have make it out of. Ako assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would be clear the barrier, but the puppet had been placed in the entrance. And even it was so strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundations buckled. Soldier's escape assured us that the formula's basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automaton was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-laden house of mirrors and was unable to move at full speed. It was near the center of the second floor. When the building collapsed, it will be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor. I think Aoko could make it down to the basement.
当てにしたからね、しずきくん。せめて3分ぐらいは引きつけて。
Ideally, he would be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him luring down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but this lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at.
ただ逃げるだけなら、もしかしてとんでもないことをしてくれるかも、あいつ。
Oko made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for a desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart using a method of his own making. What mattered most was to remain calm. The plan was simple enough. And Aoko's orders were succinct and easy to understand.
10メートルぐらいの距離を保ってできるだけゆっくり通路を3、4周すること。横道は鏡のつなぎ目で覚えて。ここなら左回りで6、3、7、2枚目にあるから、そこをぐるぐる回ってれば比較的安全よ。
It was essentially a looping marathon. Sojiro maintained distance of Puppet's extended arm. And just not that she could continue to track him, she would continue chasing him indefinitely. Simple though the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as a bait. And there was a final order to run fast as she could to the exit when the building began to sway.
結構じゃなくて、かなりきついんじゃないかな、これは。
Never struck his head out of around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First, he had to make eye contact with it, then head through the shortcut on the right and begin the game of tag. Potter didn't brace himself. Closer, closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him at any moment, and he went over Aoko's instructions in his head.
あれ
Oh no. Did he forget? Oh no. Oh shoot. No. No. My dude. I'm sure that the mistake. Poor, poor Chad. He was confident in memories moments ago, but these nerves had gotten the best of him. And his head was now spinning. Then, suddenly realized that the sound of his pursuers beginning to growling distant. Incredible speed. Ah! Playtime's over. Oh my. And just see the puppet astonished him. Before he had taken the poor beautiful girl. That night he made the bizarre transformation. Returned to the first floor to pursue her primary target. Oh no, he didn't follow
いや
him.
それは
Oh. Oh no. Oh no. Not even when the time to mourn for his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight. I'll be off help. Just let me go. Or he had said, but now would not follow through.
さて、自分はこれからどうしよ
Go down. Lang Tita held in frustration. Walk into darkness as if Aoko would be there to answer him. The very moment. Arriving on the first floor, Aoko quick understood what had transpired about her. She didn't have time to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during Day, the attraction had never made sounds like the one she heard was coming toward her now. A sound of despair as the horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping their way past the mirrors in her direction.
あ、もうどっち3分どころか10秒持たないってどういうこと？
Rather than buying her time, Sojiro had in fact stolen hers. She dreamed of cursing him for failing to fulfill one job.
複数の足音ってことは2足から多脚に切り替えたのね。
Code made it sound like the footsteps of dozen feet. To Ako, it sounded like a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. It was little wonder why it was so much faster than before. Its perception surroundings through the echolocation was particularly used in the dark. Compared to the sight-dependent humans, the automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. When it kept the pace earlier, it was because its bipedal mode of movement was not up to the task. But the stability provided with multiple legs gave it a speed that far exceeded that of any human.
どうするどうするどうする
Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. But she knew there was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Given her current state, she knew that she could easily naturalize the bounded field, blocking the entire entrance. Abandon the entrance without casting a spell. All to do was pour a little of her own energy to it. Ako could sprint with her all might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. Could only come up with 3 options. First was to escape through the exit in front of her. Then second was to hide herself somewhere with the far more complicated first floor. She made her decision with zero hesitation. Moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This will be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran toward the subterranean heart of the castle, while an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of the demonic dungeon. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. The pillar itself was not there to support the castle structure, but it would serve as nicely as the symbol into which the girl thrust her fist with all of her magical energy. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. Imagine the scene as he threw the punch, a scene that will soon become reality. A simple ignition magecraft meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the four pillars that form the foundation of the structure. Use electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation. Swift and elegant. The hammer of destruction descended upon the castle's dreams, that stubbornly rested in the fate of 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound. And so the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. Aoko's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction lead to the castle's destruction.
ご苦労様。でも思ってたよりくたびれてたのね。これじゃあ1分持つかどうか。
The plaza in the center of the basement. Aoko tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magic crest at full speed. She reeled in her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Her labored breathing refused to settle. Stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she had managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat, undoubtedly a new personal best. It spurred her weakened heart, knowing that well that the fate waited her.
入れば追ってくる。地下に行けば逃げられない。当然よね。最後まで逃げ回ろうなんて虫のいい話だった。
Hindsight was 2020. Castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly did not care. With no life of its own, its sole concern was elimination of its target, Aoko Awazaki. Indeed. The enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It was not like her talk a tale and run for her opponent that it didn't fear death.
Vivo insomni, solitare putoris uniferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Teobeam.
そもそも自爆覚悟じゃないあれ。六足歩行とフィンの一撃は使いすぎよ。もう呪詛による魔力補給じゃ間に合わない。
Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as this ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. Using up all the functions that have been given to achieve its aim. This was a pride of a tool. Such things could have ego. This endowed with sentence could never hope to. A beast born to do nothing but to run would burn any human who face its resolve.
ほんともったいない。こういう無茶をするのは姉貴だけかと思ってたけど、いるところにはいるもんね。
But Aoko did not intend a sacrifice play here. She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste.
行くわよ。ここできっかり。
Aoko had every intention of paying it back double for what they have done to her. The energy Aoko had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, head-on attack. The enemy's response was a curse to crush her art. A curse that will rend Aoko's heart and destroy itself in the process. As soon as she saw it, Aoko kicked the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled into the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling down the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. Shot grazed her arm. The curse scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot.
Snap.
Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fist of magical energy.
せーの。
If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored. Shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. Aoko's response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect harmlessly past her air.
Initio eraberamos ton vidimus dolores sunt. Nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat.
The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Did you still have something left in the tank, or it was actually indignant? Whatever the reason, Aoko was easily able to resist the weakened defensive maneuver. Nice kick! Glider. Oh, that's her move! Okay. In her right leg pulsing magical energy, she shot up the puppet's chest from below. But that's her move in Melty Blood. Okay, fine. Yes, I got you on the kick. That's similar to her move in Melty Blood. It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt a little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was superiority music box engine that would prove to be its downfall.
Venite, venite, venite. Meam sepulchrum venite.
stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of Aoko's kick, and the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Internal construction had been wrapped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet wrap as well.
恨むなら設計者を恨みなさい。ダイナモの一つでも積んでいればもうちょっとは重たくなったでしょうに。
Hey, you need to move out. Or the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aoko, tapping her back to her senses.
ところで今どうやってぶっ倒したんだ。
You're so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the house mirrors already begun to collapse.
こっちの方がやばかった。
Oh no, starting to blow. There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not unless she wanted to meet the same fate. And the situation stood if she found it hard to imagine getting out alive.
急げ、ダッシュだ私。
She slapped herself on the cheek and took off. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. With her breathing labored by all excitement, she ran for exit. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight.
この邪魔。
Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. It was the second time or third time she had to deal with this fallen rubble all along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. Automaton's jamming had long since worn off. Earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Her breathing was heavy as she ran. The intensity surrounding her sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. Where a second felt like 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to read time correctly. As her life seemed to flash her before her very eyes, a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh no. There was debris leading throughout the stairway, forcing her to crawl upon it. She emerged from the destroyed basement and collapsing the first floor. That the plaza is still traversable at Olo's miracle itself. And fortunately for her, the crucial path to exit was still intact.
よし、ついてる。
Corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor would collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surround intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that the fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until she hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivety? Sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped up in her head and continued running down the corridor.
言っとくけど、時間合わせの余裕はないわよ。
How she think about... Okay.
そんな上等な作戦じゃないし、お互いできることをやったら最速で出口に向かいましょう。
It was 5 minutes ago. And that time Sojiro had nodded with trepidation. And Aoko had not bothered to ask herself why.
何様だったの私。今は走ることだけ考えろ。
This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also unsure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as she building a structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up to this point, and she could not afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, even a sneeze would be fatal. Simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally, there it was, clear as day. For the details of the stairway, that has reason to take her down with it. Corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was still operational. And it was still armed with curses. It had clawed after her, watching as Aoko desperately tried to save herself. The puppet's arm shot forward. While Aoko did not turn to meet it, she could see its reflection in the mirrors.
E salvato, e salvato, e salvato, e salvato.
Extend. The time she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing else she could do. The puppet with her face sang.
Venit Domine. Lux sine somnium. Et pulvere simile cote de anno. Cor credo. Te iudico.
For a moment, she could not believe her eyes. This was the last thing she expected to see.
しつこいぞお前。
Wow! What again? A fierce expression adorned the face of the boy who had been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. Nice! His weapon of choice is a fire extinguisher. He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. Nice! Never mind that. It was too crazy to complicate, but he had stayed behind for her. Aww. Aoko stopped the feet she had sworn to herself she would never stop moving and extended her hand off him.
そんなのほっといていいから早く
Go, Sonoji! Tojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. Pieces of ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving and dust dirt following their wake. Their shadows raced into the collapsing corridor in their strength. Finally. Good for them. Nice one, Sonoji! Castle was in the throes of death. With a massive crash and a cloud of dust, the final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsiland came to an abrupt end. This duel to the death was over. For a moment, amidst their swirling emotions, all past enmity was left behind and to collapse on the lawn and bask in a strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long, and a tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. The sounds of the destruction echoed across the park. Aoko addresses the individual at her side.
ねえ生きてる
うん
チェ
Oh, getting closer, no? The click of her tongue was adorable. The meaning behind it was anything but.
青崎あいつどうなった？
見ての通りよ今頃バラバラ死体になってるんじゃない
Tojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response. His reason.
でもそんな心配より自分の心配をした方がいいと思うわよしずきくん
He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all.
青崎子供の頃はいじめっ子だっただろ。
No.
可逆趣味はないって自負してるけどそれで今の自分の立場分かってる
Yeah. He sat up and smiled. Oh yes, back to square one again. Tojiro hung his head in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression was so cheating.
面目次第もございません。
かしこまってもダメよあの提案には大前提があったわよねこれは取引だってあなたが役に立つのなら見逃してあげるっていう
わかってる。だから面目ないって言ってるだろ。
Tojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes. Like a pouting child. Aoko was taken back by his sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part. Aoko sighed for what seemed like a million times that day. She could not figure out what surprise her more. His unconditional kindness for a naive approval of it.
じゃあ覚悟はできてるの？
そんなのはできないけど、約束だからな。結局は何もしていないし。
It was certainly this case that he had failed to do any of the things he had expected of him. But just then, she glanced back at the collapsed house of mirrors. What had done after falling so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon. And waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed around him because he thought it was wrong of him to live alone. It was Food's choice and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit without hesitation.
ま、それでよしとするか。
She was satisfied, even if she was shocked by how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring if only for a moment the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances.
役割は果たさなかったけど、アフターケアは合格だし、約束は守らなくちゃね。
With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet.
約束は、ま、いつか守ってもらうとして。
Hmm. The girl tried to keep a straight face as she offered her hand to a boy still laying on the ground.
結果はどうあれ手助けしてもらったし、特別サービスってことで、今夜はもう手を出さないであげる。
For tonight. She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of a vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town.
何？
If she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare.
いや、突拍子もないけど、青崎は律儀だなって。
Took our outstretched hand, feeling his weight as she pulled him up. Could not help but think that he was about to the last person she wanted to hear that from.
ところで、今夜はって言うけど、明日からは。
Oh,
さ、ま、その時になったら考えるわ。
she shrugged her shoulders as if was not sure herself. Then response was unlike that. He made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped that together, or their fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? Might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. I had a lot transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that,
随分と身勝手ね。それはあなた一人で決めていいことだったかしら、青子。
oh, she was there. Oh my god, Alice was there. It has a voice of beautiful singing bird and a merciless machine all rolled into one. Okay, we're not done yet. I thought we are already done. It's here. Her voice quivered as she spoke the name. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. True. Her name was Alice Kuonji. She was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Aoko. An avatar of the night will allow no witnesses. Oh no, is this... Ah no, next chapter. Well, that was surprising. Now let me save. Last time I forgot to save. There we go. Oh my god. If I that chapter alone was almost 3 hours and close to and half, which is a very very long chapter. And if I decide to push this button for the next episode, we're not sure of until what time will I finish. This is really good. Now I kind of know why Aoko was the base of Skadi, or maybe the other way around. But I could say that now I have some facts or maybe some thoughts, theory on why Aoko was the base or prototype of Skadi. It looks like it has something to do with the Skadi's origins, or maybe the flow of the magic not circuits, the more flow of magic in this particular world for Witch on the Holy Night, because they use Gander, which is technically from Scandinavia, and if you played Lost Belt 2, you'll know why, because that's technically Scandinavia, and who else is better to represent that Lost Belt, which is Skadi. That makes sense now. That's why Aoko, these two share some likeness as to their image and personality as well, if you want to count on that one. Okay, yeah. So we have a fruitful experience on chapter 5. And the next chapter is, yeah. I think I'm implying to you what will happen next. So just be prepared just in case. If things gets worse, we have our plan B. So for now, yep, that's your chapter 5, and the next one it's kind of, despite of what happened, and it's like this camaraderie formed by Aoko and Sonoji. It will be tested now with Alice's own hands, but we'll see what will happen in the next chapter. I'm really curious that what will happen, but I think I will just either put the next chapter during the next stream, or I'll just savor it until next week or any other day possible. I'm just saving the next chapter in one of my next streams, because I could not really control what time, how many hours do we need to spend for the next chapter, because this chapter is technically close to 3 hours and a half, only this chapter alone. And the last chapter did ended in a 1 hour and a half, which is very very drastic comparison compared to the number of hours. Anyway, that's it for now. So thank you for joining in. Hope to see you next time. So no matter where you are, no matter what you do, please be safe, stay safe, and always be safe. Yeah. Have a good rest of your day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the part of the world. Once again, this is Dino from dino-arcade. Your one-stop shopper, quick fighting game fix, visual novel, typemoon stuff, FGO, and any other games in general. And I'll see you next time for more stuff. So guys, I'll see you next time. Might be not later because I slept. Last night I should do my stream